Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So Thursday means it's Tier Thursday here in Instant Deck Tech land, and this week we are heading back to Legacy to look at a deck that's been near the top of the format for a very, very long time. This is Rug Delver, also sometimes called Canadian Thresh, Canadian Threshold, all the same thing. And this build is from a Magic Online user by the name of Wargorock, but in all honesty, it's pretty much the same as every other Rug Delver deck. There might be some sideboard differences, but for the most part, this list is fairly set in stone and has been for quite a while now. A quick reminder before we break down the deck. If you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So Rug Delver is built around Delver of Secrets, of course. Actually, what this deck is, it's a tempo deck, kind of a disruption slash tempo deck that's looking to stick a really powerful 1-drop like Delver of Secrets, which flips around very consistently in this deck. There's not that many lands, plus it has ways to set it up. So it's a 3/2 flyer on turn 2 a high percentage of the time, or as a backup, or along with Delver of Secrets, Nimble Mongoose, which is a 3/3 Shroud, essentially. It starts off as a 1/1, but it quickly grows to a 3/3 thanks to fetch lands and cheap disruptive spells. So you stick one of these, or you also stick a Tarmogoyf, which just gets really huge. The deck has a way to get instants and lands and creatures into the graveyard really quickly, so Tarmogoyf grows very fast in this deck. So you stick these threats, and then you just kind of tempo your opponent out of the game. You beat down with your Delver of Secrets, your Nimble Mongoose, or your Tarmogoyf for 4, 5, 6 turns, while you are making it really tough on your opponent to do anything. So that's the main idea of Rug Delver. So how is it disrupting the opponent? And it kind of attacks on all axes. First off, Brainstorm and Ponder help make sure that Delver flips. They're also just really powerful cards, help you find the right disruption, removal, find more creatures, but on turn 2, they can make sure that your Delver is going to flip around into a 3/2 and start beating down. They get a card in the graveyard for your Goyf. Ponder is a sorcery to help pump up your Tarmogoyf. They get in the graveyard for Nimble Mongoose, so they kind of do everything in the deck. As far as disruption, it starts off by taxing the opponent's land. So Stifle is essentially 1 mana destroy a fetch land. It can do other things as well, but that's by far the most common use. Your opponent goes to crack their fetch, you pay 1 mana, you stifle or counter the activated ability, and your opponent doesn't get to search for a land. Wasteland also tax mana, so if you play a Delver on turn 1, and let's say you're on the play, your opponent plays their land drop, they go to crack their fetch, you stifle it. You start beating down with your Delver. On turn 2, you drop your Wasteland, your opponent plays another land, you Wasteland it. At this point, your opponent might just not play Magic for the entire game because you have a fast clock and you're disrupting your opponent's resources. Then there's a ton of free or very cheap counters. Daze and Force of Will, literally free. So these cards not only protect your Delvers, your Tarmogoyfs, but they also disrupt your opponent. If your opponent goes to play a counterbalance or they throw a Price of Progress at your face, you have ways to deal with that. You can stop combo, you can deal with your opponent's creatures. Spell Pierce, not as cheap because it actually costs some mana, but still very effective. And Spell Snare to deal with all the powerful 2-drops in the format. As far as removal, Lightning Bolt can go to the opponent's face, so it takes away a turn of Delver or Nimble Mongoose clock if you can bolt your opponent's face. Also gets rid of Deathrite Shamans or Tarmogoyfs or Scavenging Oozes from across the table. And Dismember kills bigger things. Lightning Bolt often can't get a Tarmogoyf, but Dismember can. As far as the mana base, it's a little risky. You have 2 different fetch lands and 2 different dual lands to go with the Wastelands, not a single basic land. So if you run into Blood Moon, make sure you don't let it resolve or you aren't going to be playing any Magic. In the sideboard, we get some more counters in Pyroblast and Red Elemental Blast. Rough Tumble is essentially there to be rough, which is a Pyroclasm that doesn't hit flyers. So almost like you see Whip Flare in Modern Affinity as a sort of sweeper that doesn't hit your creatures. Rough is a Pyroclasm that doesn't kill your Delver of Secrets. Submerge can put a Tarmogoyf or something on top of your opponent's deck, makes them skip a draw. It's also free most of the time, so your opponent's skipping a draw and losing a blocker slash attacker. Surgical Extraction for graveyards, Ancient Grudge, general artifact removal. Pithing Needle kind of the same way. There's no real specific target, but general value. Price of Progress gives you some reach, and then Sulfuric Vortex and Sylvan Library give the deck the ability to kind of go long. So if you're in a matchup where you think you're going to be playing for a lot of turns, Miracles or something like that, you can bring these cards in, and they generate a ton of value over the long game. Sylvan Library by drawing you cards, filtering your draws, and Sulfuric Vortex for just killing your opponent also prevents life gain if that's something you're worried about. And that is Rugged Elver / Canadian Threshold for Legacy. And that's our instant deck tech for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.